Hello, everyone, and welcome to the SAS Viya release highlight show. My name is Tiago de Souza, and I have some super exciting news to share with you today. We will be looking at version 2021.2.6, including how to get started with coding on SAS Viya and the launch of a brand new product, SAS Analytics Pro Advanced Programming. In fact, this episode is all about programmers and the different ways that you can code in SAS Viya. Whether you've been coding in Viya for a long time or you've been learning open source and you want to integrate that, we're going to show you how to do it all. As you know, this is a live show with a live chat, so I implore you to yak away in the Q&A. Let us know what you think, ask questions, tell us what you're a pro at, anything you'd like. Here, I'll start us off with a question. Uh, what is your favorite thing about coding? If you had to pick one aspect about coding, what would be your favorite? Let me know in the chat. Now it's time for our first segment. And actually, we're doing something a little different today. Instead of our usual rundown segment, we're going to be trying out a new user's choice segment. And joining me right now, actually, is Kate Uveling to tell us more about that. Hi, Kate.
Hey, Tiago, what's going on?
Oh, just the SAS Viya release highlight show, the best part of the day. I understand you're here to tell us about the new segment we have on the show.
I am. I'm super excited about this. So, besides doing the SAS Viya release highlight show, I also support our user groups. So, last week I punted a question to our user group leaders asking them what they wanted to see on this month's show.
Awesome. Well, I'm super excited to see what we got in store. Let's get right into it.
All right, today I am joined with Charu Shankar. Charu, you are a hot commodity with our user groups. Whether you're doing yoga, a vegan cooking class, or educating our users on all sources of knowledge, welcome to the inaugural User's Choice segment. Thank you so much for coming on today. At the end of the month, I will get to see you in person for one of our premier user group conferences, PharmaSug. Today, you're going to be showing us a little teaser of your presentation, Intro to Coding, that you'll do in Austin, Texas at the conference. Super exciting stuff. So, can you give us a rundown of what this paper is all about and who your target audience is?
Sure, Kate. So this paper came about as I started to learn Via, and I thought this is brand new, and how do I relate it to something I already know? So I started to think about a time that I was once upon a time a chef in a yoga retreat, and once I would be asked to cook in the main kitchen to 300, and then I would have access to all the resources of a massive industrial kitchen. I would have big pots and pans. I would have massive gas stoves, five sous chefs, lots of helpers supporting me. And that I started to correlate with distributed threads and processing. And then sometimes I'd be asked to cook in the smaller kitchen to 10, and there would just be me by myself. And it would probably take me a little bit longer, smaller kitchen, almost home style. And then I started to correlate that to doing single thread processing. And so that when that aha moment struck, I really got it and I wanted to share this in this paper. And that's what users are going to see. With a few tweaks to their code, they can take advantage of CAS, the CAS analytics server, the cloud analytics server, where they can do thread processing, distributed thread processing, so they can cut down their time in which they do the processing. Or they can go to SAS 9 type work, which is a compute server, and they can continue to do the work in a single thread.
All right, well, that sounds great, and I love that analogy. How about we check this out in the demo?
So here we are in SAS Studio, where I have a few lines of code already lined up. And before we begin, the first question that came up for me is, what is Via? Why should I care to learn about it? And as I started to learn Via and understand the terminology, I couldn't stop thinking about random thoughts like, do I have to discard my old code and learn anew all over again? How is this going to change what I know? How can I reuse what I already know in this new environment? So I really want to take a simple analogy that gave me the aha moment of understanding what Via and CAS is all about. It's about me cooking for over 300 guests using all the resources of a large kitchen with sous chefs and helpers versus cooking for 10 in a smaller kitchen where I would simply be the only worker and maybe the stove is only one stove. So I want to show with you one quick piece of code that highlights for me the power of multi-threaded capacity of VIA. So in here, the code you're seeing, the first line of code is my standard live name statement. This is assigning a library called PVBase. It's connecting to this location. So I'll execute this code and then I'll confirm that PVBase was successfully assigned. And the engine is V9, standard version 9, base SAS engine. So I want to point out here that in SAS Viya, data step run in either cloud analytics services, multi-threaded CAS, or the compute server, which is basically a classic SAS V9. And so the syntax for the code is the live name statement, and you make a determination whether you want to use CAS to process in the data step or later on whether you want to use the compute server. I'll also do another check at the libraries and confirm that PVBase is assigned, and there are the data sets that I will be using. Next, I'll go ahead and connect to CAS. I'll make the connection to CAS with this line of code. And in the log, I confirm that it connected successfully to Cloud Analytics Services. Then I want to go back and notice that yes, the PV-based library is already assigned. What about the CAS library? How do I assign it? So here is where I want to pause a little and talk a little bit about those folks who have database experience. With the live name statement, what happens when you connect to Oracle? What do? You simply read an Oracle table on the SAS side like a SAS dataset, right? So you have an Oracle engine, and if we have CAS, all we do is have a CAS engine. And so this is the code that's going to create a library reference called CAS user. I'll run the statement, I'll view the log, and there is the library successfully assigned. The engine is CAS. So in the library section on the left, I'll confirm that a SAS library reference of CAS user is visible. It's displayed in the libraries tree, but no tables are listed. And this is simply because we haven't loaded any in-memory tables into CAS user, and we'll do so in the next piece of code. And for that, I'm going to open up the second program. In the second program, we are going to see how we can take an existing SAS data step that we typically run on base SAS engine, and on the VIA side of things, we call it the compute server running on a single thread, and we'll transform that code to be able to run on multiple threads. So we've got the data step here. I'm building really standard data step code. Let's just review the code here. Building a data set called shipping in the work library. On the set statement, I'm reading the orders table, and that's located in the PV base library. I have an option. This end equals option creates a binary flag called EOF. Binary flags are like switches on and off. One is a yes, on, and zero is a no or off. So I want to track the observations in this table, and when I hit the end of the file, that means when EOF is 1, then I want to take a couple of actions. I want to put the values of these variables out into the log, thread ID, and the number of iterations of the data step at this last observation. In addition, I've got some simple where statements filtering through the data. I've got an assignment statement building days to deliver, and I have a drop statement. I'll run the data step, and view the log. But even before I do that, I have some more curiosity on this orders dataset. So I'll just quickly open it up from the PV-based library, and I will see that it's a pretty large dataset. And the very first row, the very first observation belongs to customer ID 8818, Diab Miss Wendy. That's something I'll file away. And then I'll head back to my code and execute this data step. I'll run the data step and view the log. And there are no messages in the log that indicate that this step ran in CAS. Instead, it ran on our traditional base SAS, the SAS compute server, which is exactly like SAS 9. Work.shipping has 235,000 observations approximately. I'll also notice that thread ID is 1. We'll talk a little bit more about that, but now I'm interested in seeing the output data. I look at the output data set and I notice that the first row has a customer ID 8818, Miss Wendy Diab, same as the input table. And then I head back to the log to look again and examine the thread ID equals 1 and the time it took, 0.61 seconds. So we'll make a mental note of that time, and when we go back to multi-threaded, we'll compare the time difference. So thread ID is 1, indicating it ran single-threaded. So it ran on a single thread, much like I would be cooking in that smaller kitchen for 10 by myself, just a simple gas stove, maybe one stove, one sink, smaller pots and pans. Typically, you would imagine it would take me longer. So now we're interested in seeing how can we take the same step and execute it in CAS? And what might change if the data step is no longer single-threaded but runs multi-threaded? So we go back to the code, heading back to it. The first step we need to take is to ensure that both the input table and the output table are in-memory tables. To do that, I need to load the table into memory, and that's where I have this handy proc cas util step. In there, I have a drop table statement. In case the table had been loaded at some point prior, I want to drop that table. And then I want to load it back, and I want to promote it to global scope. That's really a short form of saying I want this table to persist session after session. Next, I'll change the set statement to read this orders data set from now the CAS user library. And I'll also modify the data step to read the shipping data set from the CAS user library, also an in-memory table. I'll execute all of this code, or maybe I'll do it bit by bit. I'll just load this piece of code, this proc has util, and that went and loaded the orders dataset. I'll head over to the code, and now I'll run the data step code. So I pay attention to the time. This was almost half of the time that single-threaded data step took. And then I see thread ID, there's multiple threads being used, multi-threaded work, and it says, I ran the data step in Cloud Analytics Services, no longer SAS 9, no longer the SAS compute server. It runs in multiple threads, right? Thread ID, the first thread is 7. And what that really means is this is the first thread. This is the first worker that finished processing and returned its results back to the controller, and then thread 4, and then thread 12, and so on. When I check out the output table, I see that the first customer is now Mr. Guilford Balfrey. His customer ID is 54956. It's no longer Wendy Diab, right? I'll run the data step one more time, just out of curiosity, and see if I get the exact same results. So notice again, it runs in Cloud Analytics Services. Again, the time difference, it's practically half the time of the single-threaded data processing. The first thread ID, the first worker that returned it was thread 15. And so, why did the thread ID change? And what about the output data? Two questions to answer here. This time, Mr. Armini is the first customer. Again, the customer name changed. So, what's going on here? So, remember, worker nodes don't necessarily finish in the same sequence each time the data step runs. And in the log, I'm noticing that thread ID keeps on changing. Results are returned to the controller in a different order, impacting the order of the output table. The results, the final table, still the same, just the order of the rows are different. So, what's my takeaway? My takeaway, if I take you back now, this is my large kitchen with all the bells and whistles I have. 10 sous chefs helping me cook. I have a whole bunch of staff that's jumped in to help support the making of a meal for 300. The order in which each of the helpers does things isn't important. One worker may submit their chopped veggies first, and then the next worker, it doesn't matter. Ultimately, we put it all together. The final delivery is all the same. So, this is the analogy about the multi threaded processing taking lesser time because we distributed the work across multiple workers. So, hopefully, that inspired and piqued your curiosity to answer the beginning questions I posed of why should you care to learn about SAS Viya? So, now you have options to process data, either single or multi threaded. And now you know you don't have to discard your old code. Simply by making a few tweaks in your existing data step code, you can simply reuse what you already know in this new environment with a few pieces of learning how to load data in memory so that you can do that multi-threaded processing.
Charu, thank you so much for showcasing your work. We cannot wait to see more at PharmaSug 2022. But for those who cannot join us in person, what would you say is the biggest takeaway on this topic?
Thanks, Kate. For me, and I'm sure for users who watch this demo, one thing that's clear and obvious is the speed when you start to use CAS and how coding in Via is going to be a breeze once you get started with some SAS training. I know some users have been asking us about how to get trained up. I hope you'll attend one of our training classes to really leverage the power of SAS Via in your data work. And if you're in a doubt, in a pinch, just reach out to me and I can give you some suggestions on what course would be the most ideal for you.
Well, this all sounds great. Thank you so much. I'll see you next week and at a bunch of different user group events happening this summer and fall. But for now, let's toss it back on over to Tiago.
Thanks, Kate. Again, that was Charu Shankar with our first ever User's Choice segment. Thank you, Charu, for being a true pioneer on the show. Throughout that segment, you might have noticed some links in the chat here. These are related resources worth checking out. We already have loads of SAS Analytics Pro content available, including the Running CMS HCC Risk Adjustment Models with SAS Analytics Pro on Via article, and the SAS Analytics Pro on Via blog series, complete with complimentary videos. But these resources would be nothing without pros like you to check them out. So thank you for being here with us today. Shout out to Brendan and Chris and Ken and Pawan. We got some answers for the question of the day as well. Chris said, I love writing code. It's a great way to send instructions to a system and have it do exactly what I say. It's refreshing to have something follow my commands. Brendan said, programming to me is like a puzzle. Loved it since I learned BASIC on a TRS 80. And then Josh C said that their favorite part of coding is the satisfaction when it finally works. All great answers. Thank you. Everyone here is an analytics pro. By the way, if you're liking the show, why not give a good old SAS smash on that like button and share this with a friend? In fact, I hear that the very moment that someone watches the show, they instantly become an analytics pro themselves. Speaking of Analytics Pro, it is time for a classic segment. I'm going to throw it back over to Kate for this month's release talk.
I'm doing great, Kate. And with that intro, I'm going to go on a tour the rest of the year. And I'm really happy to be here to talk about Analytics Pro, which I think is an excellent product for all our users. SAS Analytics Pro is a collection of selected products from SAS Viya that is in a container, usually called Docker containers. When I say container, it means everything that you need to run SAS is inside one executable. And this executable as SAS base, stat, or graph and studio, which are our base products. And on top of that, we have added SAS OR, QC, IML, and ETS for some advanced programming. Additionally, we also have connectors to a large collection of databases that comes with the product. And to add to all of that, we have support for Python, both running inside SAS and also connecting to SAS from Python.
That sounds so useful. I know a lot of our SAS users want to have integration across different coding languages. Who would you say is a great fit for SAS Analytics Pro?
SAS strength is data management, analytical, advanced analytics, reporting, and that has been our strength. And anybody who's looking for that kind of capability can use Analytics Pro. And that could be our current users or it could be new users.
Deva, what about SAS Analytics Pro excites you? And for a novice user like me that's just being introduced to this product, what should they be excited about as well?
Glad you asked that question, Kate. I've been a SAS programmer since 1976, and this product, I think it's the sweet spot. In about 10 minutes to 15 minutes, I can have this product on my laptop up and running with no additional help. I can then connect all my existing SAS programs and datasets to Analytics Pro and start using it like I've always used SAS. And I can also mix in now all the Python that I have developed recently. I can add it to the mix by either running inside SAS Studio or connecting to a Pro from Python itself. Another very important thing for me as a user would be the fact that I can get updates to the product every month, which is our cadence for SAS Viya. So I don't have to wait very long to get fixes to any issues that have been discovered. And I've been talking mostly about old existing users. Now, new users will also benefit from that a lot. Because it's a container, you can put it on your laptop and you can start programming without any connectivity, learn from it, and as you need, you can continue to grow with that. So it's a great combination for all users.
Okay, great. That's super helpful. Well, why don't we check this out in the demo?
Let us explore the features of Analytics Pro using SAS Studio. SAS Studio, you can type in your programs and execute it, look at the results, modify your programs, and so on. On the right side, you see the output from running proc set init, and it lists all the products that I'm licensed for, including ETS, OR, IML, and QC, which are part of the Analytics Pro Advanced Programming. You also see that I'm licensed to access many databases. This access to these databases are free with Analytics Pro Advanced Programming. Now let's run a more interesting program, IML. On the left side, you see the program that's already been typed in. It's pretty long, decent sized program, and I'm going to run it. The logs are appearing on the right side, and that should be followed by the results. Here are the results, a nice table and a plot. Our users also program in Python. So in SAS Viya and Analytics Pro and Analytics Pro Advanced Programming, we have added a feature that allows users to include Python as part of their SAS data stream. So here is an example where I have a proc Python, and within that we submit code to Python. You get the results back, and then you continue processing in SAS. You can have as many proc Python sections as you want. In this particular example, passing a dataset from SAS to Python, executing some Python packages, getting the results back out as a SAS dataset, and continue processing. I have already run this program, so I'm going to show you the results, which are some really summary statistical graphs and more graphs down there. Proc Python allows users to use the best of both worlds. They use SAS for what SAS is extremely good for, and if there are particular Python packages that interest them or they feel they understand and get better results, they can include that as part of their SAS program. One of the most common uses of SAS is to run nightly and weekly jobs in batch mode. And these programs could be very large and they do ETL, generate reports, and do more data analysis. To demonstrate that, I have a very simple program here that prints the dataset sashelp.iris. And the output is being written to two files, test.lst and test.log, that should appear in these two directories, log and list directories on the left side. To run that, I have written a script called SAS batch, and I'm going to write the name of the program. And the program ran inside the container, and we have the results here. Here is the log, and here is the listing, which is just the printout of the data set. Some customers like to run batch in line mode or in a shell, and I'm going to demonstrate that with another script called sasexe.ps1. SAS users will recognize why I called it SAS.exe. And now I'm inside SAS running, and I got my proc print. I'm going to run the same batch job that I ran before. But this time I'm getting the results right here in my shell. And I'm going to end SAS, stop that program. And the program is done at this point. I showed earlier using procPython to embed Python code in SAS. Users can also do the opposite of that. They can be programming in Python and access SAS to do some other work. We have a package called SASPy, open source, that allows users to do that. Here is an example running Jupyter Lab where I have Python code where I am connecting to SAS, creating a session, then accessing some data sets in SAS, printing it, and running a picture. So I am going to go ahead and rerun this to show it working. It cleared everything. So in a second, we should see the results. There is the first few lines of the data set, and now we are getting the graph that we were looking for. So this shows that users can integrate Python with SAS in two ways, one inside SAS or embed SAS within their Python program.
Thank you so much, Deva. What a great demo. I was wondering, what do you mean when you mention that a product is cloud ready and that it involves Docker? Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
As I said, the Docker container is a single image that contains all the SaaS products that you need to run with. This means it can run anywhere where a Docker container can run. This includes your laptop, which is where I was running the demos. As you grow, you have a larger payload or larger programs, you may want to move it to a server on-prem, or maybe you want to run the VM on the cloud. You can do that. And maybe at some point you want to take advantage of the Kubernetes on the cloud, and you could also run APRO in that environment. So you can basically travel with APRO from your workstation all the way to the cloud as your needs change. And that's
Okay,
what
I
we call
appreciate
it.
you.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry to interrupt you.
So uh, that's why we call it cloud ready, from your workstation all the way to the cloud.
Okay, great. I appreciate you breaking that down for me. Like I said, this is all brand new, so thank you for that. So it sounds like this product is rich in its history, but I want to look a little bit forward. What does the future of SAS Analytics Pro look like, Deva?
Since it's a new product, we are immediately focused on improving the user experience. The reason you can deploy APRO so quickly is that it comes with something called a quick start. We want to improve what the quick start can do and make it even better for our customers. And since, as I just explained, APRO can run in different environments, all the way from your workstation to the cloud. We want to improve the documentation for our users and how they can deploy in these different environments and what they need to worry about as they're deploying this. And finally, we always look for our users' feedback. And as we get more feedback, we will incorporate that into the product. So that's our goal right now.
Well, this has all been so helpful. Thank you for sharing these updates, Deva, and we really appreciate your time today. We'll certainly be on the lookout for more to come. I'm going to toss things back over to Tiago, but thanks again.
Thanks, Kate. Great release talk as always. Again, that was Deva Kumar telling us about SAS Analytics Pro. Keep an eye out for more developments on this new product. Now, sadly, it is the end of the show, but that doesn't mean that your SAS Viya journey has to slow. You can check out the description for more resources to dig into. And this is a monthly show. So next month, we will have new SAS people here to tell us more about what's new with Viya then. Also, what did you think of the new User's Choice segment? Did you like it? If you did, let us know what you'd like to see covered next month. You can subscribe to the SAS Users YouTube channel to get notified on when that June show will be. But until then, I've been Tiago de Souza, your host. Keep on being a pro at everything you do, and we will see you next month.